The international community is celebrating May Day, the International Labor Day. In Gabon, it is celebrated under the theme Effective Social Dialogue in a rapid changing environment, an evocative topic that gathered the views of the government and workers on the current status of the workers. In the accordance with the agreement on demilitarizing the joint security area and turning the demilitarized zone into a zone of peace, the South Korean government is reopening visits to South. These are our top stories. Stay tuned for more details in this newscast. A staff delegate and union rep are distinguished by different duties. The first represents the personnel and informs the employer of any individual or collective claims relating to the application of the labor regulations. In the absence of a works council, he is consulted on redundancies, vocational training, and working hours. He is the interlocutor of the labor inspector. The trade union delegate, better known in Gabon particularly under the name of Union Secretary General, represents his organization for work-related issues with the employer. In this situation, he informs the employer of individual and collective demands. Unlike the staff delegate, the union rep is the direct interface with the employer. He is responsible for sending him the proposals and demands of his union. Staff delegate and union rep have an employee representation role in the business. The strike is, however, a moment of collective protest, leading to a cessation of activities in the company, but in Gabon, it tends to go wayward. The right to strike is a fundamental right for every employee and protected by law, but this means of pressure needs to be carried out under conditions provided by law. Business leaders and, on a large scale, the government should opt more for a closer relationship between employees, their representatives, and the hierarchy, and also should aim at introducing social communication to learn how to better anticipate and manage conflicts as they are. The case of social dialogue initiated in April by the Gabonese Prime Minister. The National Independent Electoral Commission unveiled on the night of Tuesday, April 30th, the first major results of the parliamentary elections with a relatively low participation rate. The stake of this legislative election was undoubtedly the participation rate. After several threats of cancellation of the poll by the opposition following its ousting process, the head of state remained firm on his position, validating only two parties from the presidential majority. Expected for Tuesday in the afternoon, then in the evening, it is around midnight that Emmanuel Tiando, the president of the commission, announced the results of the electoral process. Figures much expected by the national opinion, looking at the strong pressure, apart from the number of registered voters and vote cast. What everyone was expecting was the participation rate, which is well below the figures of the previous legislative elections. Example 22.99% against 66% in 2015. However, the results were not published per constituency and do not reveal the figures of the participation rates in some major cities such as Porto Novo, Parakou, or Cotonou capital. But according to the provisional results announced in the press, with 86% of the ballot counted, the Progressive Union comes on top with 47 seats before the Republican bloc, which would have obtained 36 seats. For the commission head, Emmanuel Tiando, the history of the Beninese nation is often marked by obstacles from which the country learned lessons in order to be a strong and blooming nation. In a long press release issued by the official news agency, the country's Pacific Reunification Committee, which is responsible for relations between the South and North Korea, called on Seoul to work more actively to improve these relations. According to this organization, a serious situation is being created and it could lead to a return to the past with the risk of impending disaster because of the growing dangers of war in this context. Pyongyang did not respond to Seoul's invitation this week to participate in the ceremony held on Saturday in Panmunjom, a village at the border, in the demilitarized zone, to commemorate the first summit between North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and South Korean President Moon Jae-in, which took place exactly 1 year ago. Some 500 people, including diplomats and South Korean government officials, listened to musicians from South Korea, China, America, and Japan.
We're very excited for the people of South Korea and from visitors from around the world to your great country to come here and see what has changed. Sure, I think that what you'll feel here in Panmunjom is a different vibe. What once was a vibe of tension is now a vibe of peace. We've taken away the landmines. We've ensured that this side has been demined. We've taken the weapons out of the towers. Our guards no longer carry weapons. And I think that what you'll see here is a place that can foster trust building and confidence that hopefully can spread across the Korean Peninsula.
After 2 years of rising tensions that had placed the peninsula on the verge of nuclear war, the year 2018 was marked by a remarkable inter-Korean rapprochement. This Wednesday, the Court of Arbitration for Sport handed down its decision in the dispute between the South African athlete Caster Semenya and the International Athletics Federation, which want to compel hyperandrogenic athletes to take drugs to lower their testosterone levels. Will the supreme body for the settlement of sports cases agree with the South African athlete or with the world's athletics governing body? The answer is known since Wednesday, May 1st, 2019. Caster Semenya eventually lost her historic case against the International Athletics Federation. A decision of the Court of Arbitration for Sports means that the triple world champion will now have to take drugs to reduce testosterone levels if she wants to continue with international competitions. The decision announced by the Court of Arbitration for Sport comes after the procedure of more than 2 months, when Caster Semenya considered that the policy of the International Athletics Federation discriminated against athletes with differences in sexual development. In a statement, the Court of Arbitration for Sport stated that Semenya's team had not been able to prove that the International Athletics Federation policy was void. However, the Court of Arbitration for Sport expressed serious concerns about the future practical application of this regulation, leaving open the possibility for future amendments to the rules. The international community is celebrating May Day, the International Labour Day. In Gabon, it is celebrated under the theme Effective Social Dialogue in a rapid changing environment, an evocative topic that gathered the views of the government and workers on the current status of the workers. In the accordance with the agreement on demilitarizing the joint security area and turning the demilitarized zone into a zone of peace, the South Korean government is reopening visits to South. That's all for our newscast today. Stay tuned on Gabon 24 for more news.